Hello all, welcome to this session. In this session, I am going to answer one of the Java interview questions. That is, what are the other names for primitive data types in Java? Let me answer. In Java, we can also call these primitive data types with other names. Most of the times we call them as primitive data types only, which is most used one. But there are other names using which we can call these data types. Instead of primitive data types, we can use other names also, but they are not that much used as primitive data types. But let's find out what are the other names we have for these primitive data types in Java. Okay. First of all, there are 8 primitive data types, that is basic data types we have in Java, that is byte, short, int, long, float, double, char, boolean. These are the 8 primitive data types which are non-object oriented in nature, and they get operated directly by the underlying machine, okay, or the syntax of the Java. Okay, so direct underlying machine in where the Java program is running, so data types will directly interact. So that's why they're very simple, basic, efficient, effective, and whatever you say. Okay, so they are non-object oriented in nature also. But what are the names we have for these primitive data types? What are the other names we can call them as? So first one, primitive data types, I already told you, is most used one in the industry. Wherever you go, people refer to this byte, short, int, long, float, double, char, boolean as primitive data types, first of all. And there are very less number of section of people who call these primitive data types with other names like elementary data types. Elementary means why the name is given elementary. You have had some word like elementary school. What is elementary school means where basics foundations will be taught, right? Since these data types are also related to some basics and foundation level kind of data types, right? Basic nature they have, right? So that's the reason, simple basic nature they have. That's the reason to emphasize this basic nature. People call it as elementary data types. It's often called, but not that much as primitive data types. And the other one is basic data types. They are basic level only, right? Okay. Using these basic data types, we can create, okay, by using these basic data types, we can go till complex algorithms, data structures, and all we can create. Okay, but the basic ones are these primitive data types. By programming this primitive data type, we can go to the complex level stuff. Okay, commonly used to convey the idea of foundation level. Foundation. Okay, without foundation, you cannot build a building, right? So if you want to create some algorithms, very big programs, complex structures, and all, right? First, we need some foundation, right? This primitive data types acts like a foundation for storing the data into the variables. Okay. Then last name given, or we can call this primitive data types, is scalar types. Okay. So why we call this primitive data types as scalar types? Because whatever the variables you declare this primitive data types with, they will store only individual values. Okay. Like not composite values, a combination of values doesn't get stored. Either integer value will be stored or decimal value will be stored, but decimal plus integer won't be stored. Or in some other languages, we have different type of composite nature of values can be stored, like combination of alphabet plus number. That is not possible. Okay. Scalar types, why we call? Because very less used. People use it. You call this primitive data types as scalar types very less. Okay, very less, very few times they may call, very rarely. I have not heard any time from the people, but it's there. Okay, maybe very less section of people may use it to represent that, to say that this primitive data types only represent individual values. Okay, individual independent values rather than combination of alphabets, numbers, and all. Either integer values will be there, or decimal numbers will be there, or boolean value will be there, or character literal will be there, string literal will be, whatever it is, but combination won't be there. Okay, that's why they are called as scalar types also. So these are the 4 names that people call this primitive data types, other names with when they call these primitive data types with other names: primitive data types, elementary data types, basic data types, scale. These are the 4 types only. Okay, the names, 4 types of names they call these primitive data types. Okay, so practical demonstration, there's nothing to show like as per an answer, but I'll demonstrate this different primitive data types that you can also call them as elementary data types, basic and scalar types in a practical way. For that, I'll create a new class, and in that class, I'll just give some random name. In that class, I'll create a main method. Inside that main method, I'll create some variables and declare them with different data types. Okay, different primitive data types. Byte A is equal to 9. Okay, short B is equal to 121. Then int C is equal to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then long D is equal to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Then float E is equal to 1.23 F, and double F is equal to 12.34. Then char G is equal to some S or symbol or row number, whatever you want to give inside single quotes. Boolean H is equal to something like true. Okay. So these are the different primitive data types. Total we have 8. This can be either called as primitive data types, or you can also call them as elementary data types, or basic data types, or scalar data types, whatever you want. So with practical demonstration, I have answered this question for you. So that's all for this session. Thank you. Bye bye.